Hi, and welcome to this edition of Business Supes, where we interview successful business owners, learn a little bit about them, their business, and of course, their business superpower. So today I am joined by John Brown, from Hot Shot Electric. John, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're very welcome. So we always like to start off learning a little bit about the business owner and their business. So tell us about your origin story.
Lived in Broken Arrow for almost 50 years now. Originally was born in Lafayette, Indiana, but didn't really live there very long. My dad worked for GTE Automatic Electric, and we traveled around until we made home here in the early 70s, and basically have grown up here. Graduated from Broken Arrow High School, was the first graduating class from the new high school that's out there that is not new now because it was back in 86, but that high school has grown. And so we were the first graduating class from there. Basically have lived in Broken Arrow all that time, watched Broken Arrow grow from 10,000 people to the 100,000 it is now. And just really have focused my business in Broken Arrow, and just really try to stay in Broken Arrow and support Broken Arrow.
So tell us a little bit about the business.
Uh, Hot Shot Electric was created in 1995. I have a son that's 27, and it's the same age as my company. We went out on faith 3 weeks before he was born and went into business. And that was pretty challenging and interesting, to say the least. Basically have been a service business. We don't do very much new construction, do more service, repair, remodel, that type of work, and take care of the customer. I've always been customer oriented, and just really enjoy that part. I stayed in the truck by choice for about, probably 22 years of that time, taking care of the customers, and enjoyed it and enjoyed being in the truck. In the last 3 years, I've stepped away from the truck and let the guys take care of it and just more run it and answer the phones and dispatch and do that type. About 2 years ago, I had a surgery on my foot that basically just went bad. I've had 7 surgeries in the last 2 years, and then June of this last year, actually lost my leg. So I actually have a prosthetic now and have learned to have to walk with it. It's taken time. I don't walk all the time. With 2 years of not walking, you've lost a lot of strength. And so that's where I've really focused on just really running the company even more, and still just living day to day with that and staying positive. That's the biggest thing is, don't let it get you down. So.
Wow. So were you always drawn to, I guess, the electrical side of things? Because I know going through school, they teach us about electricity, and some people are like really into that, and other people just it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, teach me about something else. So what kind of got you into doing the electrician thing?
I made a choice in high school that I figured everybody was always going to need electricity. So I went to Votech for 2 years in high school, actually jobbed out of Votech in 86 in January, and went to work for my last 4 or 5 months in Votech, and just started working as an electrician. And so basically did that. There was a couple of years that I did work for Baker Oil Tools as a maintenance guy, but just didn't like corporate America, and so went back to the electrical. Did new houses at that time, and just didn't really like the new houses. Went to work for a company called Kite Services back in the early 90s, and they're the ones that really taught me how to do service repair. And so I just fell in love with that part of it, and that's where I started doing the service work. So.
Okay, very cool. So how long were you someone else's employee before you branched out on your own?
About probably 7 to 9 years. In the way that the electrical works, you're supposed to be an apprentice for 4 years, then you get your journeyman's license, and you got to be it for a year, and then you go into doing as a journeyman, you got to work under a contractor and even as an apprentice. But I actually, back in the early 90s, you could jump from an apprentice electrician all the way to a contractor. And so I studied and did that and took my test and passed it and went from an apprentice to a contractor. So.
Wow. I talk to a lot of business owners, and it's interesting. It's kind of the idea of intrapreneurship versus entrepreneurship, which is take a job, let somebody else teach you how to do it, watch how they run the business, and then take everything that you've learned and go out and strike out on your own versus just trying to go out and fake your way through it. So what was it about owning your own business that appealed to you?
I think that's every technician's big dream. There's a book that I read that's called it's E-Myth, meaning that you're an entrepreneur, if you've ever heard that book. And that book talks about that everybody, as an apprentice, they want to be a journeyman because that's your next step. And as a journeyman, they see that the contractor is making all this money. Now they are making money, but they have a lot of headaches that go with that money. And so I think everybody has that drive. He can do it, I can do it. And until you really get into it and understand it, you don't understand really what's going on. And so, and I think that's where a lot of contractors fail, is because they don't have they have the technical side of it. They can be a technician and they can learn how to do that side of it, but they don't understand the business side, the taxes and the employees and all that stuff. And so I think that until you understand that, and that's where I've tried to mentor some guys that they struggle. They struggle on that business side. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I've been in it for 27 years, and most businesses fail in the first 5 years. And so if you've made it 27, you're probably know what's going on. There's been some tough times and rough times, and that's where you stay in the truck and don't grow too fast too.
So what is it about owning your own business that you like?
I think the freedom, especially right now. I mean, I can't go to work for somebody. I mean, really, with my leg and where it's happened now, I'd have a hard time working for somebody where, as a business owner, yeah, I don't take off as much as I need and don't do vacations in the last 27 years. But in the same sense, if today I want to go take my family and go do something for the day, I can still answer the phone, still run the business, and still do the things that I need to do in that side of it. And so I think the freedom of not having to report to a boss.
I ask that question everybody I interview, and it always comes back to freedom, whether it's time freedom, money freedom, freedom to not have to answer to somebody, freedom to pick the people who I work with. So yeah, that is a recurring theme in the entrepreneurs I've talked to. So very cool. So what are some of the successes that you've seen in business over the last, would you say 27 years?
Yes, that's a challenge in that, because there's been more challenges than there is always success in some aspects of it. I've made some of those mistakes where I've been a Mr. Electric franchise. I've merged with companies that didn't work out. Always trying something to grow the business in that aspects, and it just don't always look good all the time, but I can say that the Mr. Electric experience gave me a great education in that when I decide to continue to grow and get to the 4 trucks or the 5 trucks and do that things, that I have the base to make that happen from that education. Yeah, it's a loss of money, but I still have that understanding of what I could be if I want to, and it's control. I think that's the thing about it, is that I control what I want to do, in the aspects of marketing wise or whatever. I mean, it's interesting just being in the control of that.
So you mentioned some challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen just in general in the business world, especially post-COVID?
COVID really didn't change our business because we were an essential business in that aspect. Now, I have had employees that thought they were going to get sick and die and quit on me, in that aspects of it. And I had to go back in the truck during COVID, which was a little challenge. It was pre-surgery and all that. But so that was, as an entrepreneur, having an employee quit on you and say, hey, I don't want to work and I have to go back in the truck, which it's more efficient and I make more money. I mean, but
Right.
so pre-COVID, after COVID, we've had to have different customers and respect them and masking up, but it's not been a whole lot. And it still feels like in Oklahoma, they just weren't that strict as they were in the East Coast, West Coast, in that aspects of customers wanting you to wear a mask or worried about, the cleanings and all the different things after COVID. Sometimes there's people that you respect that their kids are sick or on this, and they want you to mask up. And yeah, you just mask up because they want you to. But it's not been to where we really took the thing that say we're going to mask up on every job. We left it up to the customer requesting what they wanted, in that aspect.
Okay.
But of course, right now, I think personally that we are in the middle of the start of the inflation in Oklahoma. I've seen it in the last couple of weeks of business dropping down and being challenging. That East Coast, same thing. East Coast, West Coast comes to the middle, and now we're hitting there. And hopefully they don't last a whole long time, but who knows?
Yeah. Never a dull moment when you're in business, right?
That's right.
So based off of what you just said, what's your outlook for 2023? How do you think Hotshot is going to survive, and well, not even survive, but thrive in 2023?
January was very good for us. I mean, we tripled what we normally do in January. Now it's dropped off the last couple. That's where I think that it was like, wow, we're going to be really good. And I mean, I've added a truck this year. In the last 3 weeks, I've added another truck. And now that I've added it, it's like we've dropped down and praying and hoping that it continues just to be good in the rest of the year. Usually March, April, May, it starts of our busy season, and it's not quite hit yet. And so I'm still hoping that still happens. But in the same sense, I've got all kinds of jobs out there that's bid that could, there's one over the weekend that said, hey, let's go with it. There's another one that, so it's there. It's just a matter of, and it surprises me some days because I know inflation and our electrical prices just of our material, just like food, has doubled and tripled. And so that's hard to give that to the customer and say, hey, 18 months ago, this was not that way.
Right.
Wire itself used to be $69 a roll, and it's $160 a roll. So
wow.
It's hard to keep up with that, so that you make your money off your material that you need to make. Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point, because so many business owners are scared to raise their prices, and it's like, you've got to, if you're good and you're doing a good job for your customers and you're providing value, then there's a cost and investment that goes along with that value. So and the customers who say, well, can you cut me a deal? Can you do it for less? Those normally aren't the customers we really want to be working with, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. So the question that started it all, what would you say, John, is your business superpower?
Business superpower is that with Hotshot Electric, you're basically dealing with the owner of the company in the aspects of answering that phone call and taking care of the business. I don't have a secretary. I try to right now at this time take care of that customer. And with Hotshot Electric, we do have an actual superhero. His name is Electro Man. It is a logo. It is, and so him taking care of is Hotshot Electric, Electro Man, taken care of. Hotshot means quick service. That's what we try to do, is give you quick, quality, good service. Another one of our slogans is we're polite, prompt, and professional. So that is, something else that we pride that We're going to show up when we say we're going to show up, because that is an issue in our industry, is showing up when you're going to say, you know, things happen. Don't get me wrong. You get employees that get sick, but I call that customer and say, hey, sorry, but this is what's happened. And we're all human. There's days that we drop the ball here or there scheduling wise, but you know, it always works out. And so, but we're all about customer service. And I know that there's a lot of companies out there that says that, but that's truly what you know, if you look at our reviews, we've got a 4.7 or whatever. I mean, we've got great reviews. I show up when I say I'm going to show up. I give you an upfront price when we're giving you prices, and we don't change it in the middle of the job unless you change something. I mean, you change the job, it's going to change the price.
Yeah. And last question. What piece of advice do you have for other business owners?
I think with other business owners in the service industry that we are in, is communication with the customer is the most critical thing that you can do, and be honest with the customer in the aspects of telling, if you're going to be there, be there. That's the one thing I'm trying to mentor another electrician friend of mine, is that he tries to take care of everybody instead of saying no. There's days that you got to say no. It's tough when you're broke and you ain't got money, but there's days you got to know what your schedule is, and you got to know how to control time. And if you tell somebody I'm gonna be there tomorrow, and you know you've got a full day job already, you can't be there tomorrow. Don't feed them the wrong information to them.
That's great advice. So, John, thanks for spending some time with us today and telling us a little bit about your business and, of course, your business superpower. We appreciate having you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.